Oh, yeah, the board.
Good afternoon. I'm calling this meeting to order. And before we do the moment of silence, I want you and those that are educators to remember our counselor at Central Middle School, Ruben Barrera. For many years, I think he spent 30 years as a counselor. He passed away in between board meetings, so I thought I'd mention him. A very nice young man, a good man that a lot of young people in the middle school used to adore him and used to love him. He was a role model for all counselors. The other one that is also contributed to many years to BISD was Meme Mireles, band director at Hannah. Very proud of Meme. He also, for those that, his family is also missing him. But, all the music department knew him as an expert in music. In fact, he's one of the few Hall of Famers from Brownsville that are in the Association of Music in Austin. He's in the Hall of Fame. So keep those two young gentlemen in your prayers, please. Now, would you please rise to have a moment of silence, please? Thank you. Rick?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And
roll call, sir.
Mr. Colunga and Mr. Cortez, I don't know if they're going to come in late or not. They didn't call, so just mark them absent until further notice. Oh, man, they'll be looking for a parking space. Could be. You know that? No. They don't want to walk. Parking space, we have them all the way out there, too. Right? A parking space close by. Anyway, Pat?
Item 5, recommend approving the agenda of the regular board meeting of November 17, 2009 with any corrections or deletions.
I'll move.
I have a motion to accept. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
I guess, Mr. Springston, it was as is.
Yes, sir, it is as is.
Pat?
I believe there might have been a motion that Mr. Sayas wanted to make regarding the order of the day today.
This is for November 17th, item 5, right?
9, public audience.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to make the move public audience to be the first thing that we hear on today's agenda.
Been a motion to move the public audience.
Because there's some students here.
There's
that-
some young people here that will need to leave early. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been seconded by Dr. Escobedo. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Item 6, recommend approving the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 15, 2009 with any corrections.
I have a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
The second. Is this the one that you and I went to Washington, Mr.?
I wasn't here either.
Okay. I say 1, 2. Then Mike, 3 of us were not here.
Well, I can't
Two,
approve it.
that's not 2, right?
2 on.
No, we still, and then there were,
The 3 can approve it, yes.
yeah, okay. All right, there's been moved that we approve board meeting for September the 15th. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Just let the record indicate that Ms. Peña and Aguilar were not present at that meeting. Okay?
Yes, sir. Recommend approving the minutes of the regular board meeting of October 6, 2009 with any corrections.
I so move.
Second.
Second. All right, it's been moved and second to approve regular board meeting October the 6th. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those against say nay. Okay.
Public audience. The next item on our agenda is the public comment period. This is the time for citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meeting. So please let us hear from you now if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and the subject matter of your comments must appear on the sign-in sheet, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete his or her comments. With all due courtesy, the presiding officer will strictly enforce that time limit. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesperson to avoid needless repetition. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of open forum by, for example, anyone uselessly repeating the same comment or complaint meeting after meeting. All participants must understand that if your comment in the judgment of the presiding officer constitutes a complaint against an employee or officer, the presiding officer will interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the BISD's formal grievance procedures, be that DGBA, FNG, or GF local. With those cautions in mind, we will now be glad to hear the general comments.
Let me have a correction, Mrs. Perez. There are 9 people signed up for public audience. We only have 30 minutes. So it cannot be 5 minutes, but it'll be 45 going into it. I'm just going to round it out to 4 minutes.
That's fine, sir. You're the presiding officer. You can set it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board,
Eduardo Luna, invitation to Magna Night.
yes, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Eduardo Luna, and I serve as your National Region 4 Vice President for Skills USA. The students that are here with me are representatives of the respective high schools. We are here today to invite all of you to our Magnet Night. This event will be held on Thursday, November 19th, 2009 from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Brownsville Event Center. Magnet Night is the opportunity for the different high schools to showcase their respective career-oriented programs to 8th graders and the rest of the community. We would be honored if you would attend this event so you can witness our hard work and dedication firsthand.
Sure, everyone has one. Okay, thank you.
It's okay. Hi, Mom. Thank you. Eduardo Luna?
Yeah, make sure that the board gets some.
Make sure that the board gets them, Mom. Here, look. Look, right here. We need one right here. Jerry. And did they get one?
Sure,
Thank
sure,
you,
sure.
sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and we're going to do the best we can. I cannot speak for everybody, but I know they're going to try the best to be present.
Thank you very much, and we would be really honored if you would attend. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much for coming over. Before we go on, just let the record reflect Mr. Colunga walked in at 5:40.
Yes, sir.
George Borrego. George Borrego.
So much, it's okay.
I guess he's not here. Ernest de Leon.
Good afternoon. My name is Ernesto de Leon. Board members, district staff, ladies and gentlemen, for the past few years, I've served proudly as a member of the Bond Oversight Committee to look after the spending of more than $150 million approved by the voters of our district for the construction of new schools and the improvement of others. I have looked after the interest not only of our taxpayers, but also of those who will come after us and will have to pay for these monies. I'm speaking of our children and grandchildren. Perhaps I've been too diligent in protecting our taxpayers, and for that, I make no excuses. However, after being made privy of the emails addressed to you, the board, and to other members of the BOC by 2 members of the committee, I feel I must respond to their criticism. One of the emails, which all of you have received, accuses me of political grandstanding at the expense of the district. It further charges that we shouldn't concern ourselves with events that happened in the past. In other words, that we should just approve what the contractors and district staff tells us. My response, we learn from our mistakes and we try not to repeat them. So I respectfully disagree. If political grandstanding means alerting our staff and contractors that the plans to build Keller Elementary and Manzano Middle Schools with inadequate ingress and egress 2 years before they were rejected by the Texas Department of Transportation when the schools and roads were almost completed, then I'm guilty. If political grandstanding means that we should accept a contract for water supply for the Valley Municipal Utility District instead of working with our own Public Utilities Board and my saving the district taxpayers and their children almost $1 million, I'm guilty. These issues are still relevant to the cost that will have to be borne by our taxpayers, whether the plans were formulated 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years ago. If saving money and headaches for our residents and our districts amounts to political grandstanding, then I plead guilty. For the email writer's information, I had addressed these issues in 2007, years before I decided to be a political candidate for a county office. So how can it be said that I was just political grandstanding when I raised these questions then? I know Ms. Catalina Presas reappointed me to the BOC to represent the interest of the residents and children of our district, not to be a rubber stamp for plans that would line the pockets of contractors and other interests that do not have the interest of our children as their #1 priority. I thank Ms. Presas Garcia for the privilege of having reappointed me to perform the most important work, and I thank the staff and the rest of the board for the indulgence to my efforts. I feel that I have done all I could and will continue to serve the district. Whatever you might think of the work that I've performed, please remember that my only goal was to make sure that the district taxpayers' monies were spent wisely, and not my efforts will result in providing our children with an education that will prepare them for the challenges that will face in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. Mr. Carlos Quintanilla.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members in the audience, Ms. Catalina Presas, Ms. Minerva Peña, Commissioner Escobedo. I'm not here to tell you what you need to do, and I'm not here today to give you a sermon about what is right and what is wrong. It will be in the courts, with the public, through outside governmental agencies, and the voters come November of 2010 who will tell you what to do. I'm here to identify myself, to show my face to you, to tell you who I am and what Acción America is all about. We believe in fairness. We defend our children. We advocate for parents. We speak out against inappropriate behavior, and we are not afraid to do so. We are not a political action committee. We are not a not-for-profit organization. We're a business, and that business is spelled Justice. Recently, Ruben Cortez filed an ethics complaint from information that was illegally
Mr.
obtained.
Quintanilla, please, no names.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Recently, a member that is not present here today
That's
filed
the
an
same thing,
ethics
Mr.
complaint.
Mr. Aguilar, that's personally identifiable information. He's making a complaint against an officer or employee of the district. As per the policy, you have the right to direct him to the other
refrain.
policies in that respect if he's going to be complaining about an officer, employee, trustee of the district.
Would you please rephrase your statement, sir?
Recently, an individual filed an ethics complaint from information that was illegally requested.
Mr. Aguilar, the cat's
sir.
out of the bag, sir.
I
don't
think I have the right to, when you begin to ask information about me, I think I have the right to speak out. And I think I have the right to defend myself, and I think I have the right to ask questions. So I ask you to allow me to speak on this issue, since it was BISD who requested my information.
Mr. Saldaña.
Mr. Aguilar, he's obviously making a complaint against an individual that he's already identified. There are other processes. There's the FNG and GK policies that you can direct him to so that his complaint against that individual can be handled administratively. Now, this is your call, Mr. Aguilar. That's just my recommendation.
Sir, would you meet with Mr. Sprinton and discuss that complaint that you have against our board member?
I would be more than happy to meet with
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you. We have also requested information on several occasions on different subjects pertaining to individuals who sit on this board. We have yet to receive that information, and you are put on notice that you are attempting to hide public information that is public information and is subject to release as required by law. We received in our previous request over 526 pages of information, and within that information we received the Gavito and the Fausto Pisano reports and work summaries for Mr. Saldaña. After reviewing this information, we felt it is important to release the reports that allege inappropriate behavior by the athletic director, and we're subject to litigation in Travis County.
Same thing.
Sir,
It is ironic that today that
I
this
think
court
that,
is calling
I think
on
we
a
had given the
special
opportunity and
investigation
warning,
to
sir.
investigate Art Rendon
Yeah.
for inappropriate
you are out of
behavior.
order, sir. You're out of order,
Closes
sir.
its eyes to both the Gavito and Fausto Pisano
think-
reports.
Call security, Mr. Peña. Would you remove him from the podium, man?
You're not going to let me continue?
No, I'm not. Neto Lopez?
Where's the freedom of the speech?
Neto Lopez?
Where's the freedom of the speech?
Neto Lopez? Jaime Vega? Oh, Mr. Lopez out there? Okay.
Excuse me, I'm Neto Lopez. I've been I'm a native here, and I've been involved with the school system. I worked for BISD for quite some time. And I feel that the atmosphere here is going to be almost impossible to have a fair chance to bring people out and let us be able to correct the problems that we have. At this point, it's going to be, if you could stop me whenever you want to, if I'm wrong here. This starts off with prelude to injustice at BISD. It is quite obvious that by the unwarranted actions of the four majority of the uncouth BISD board majority, conspirators and undeniable illegal actions of intimidation and coercion to honorable high school credentials and extremely experienced in the field of education, administration, and served his country in the military. I can assure that these four BISD board members are disillusioning our proud students, teacher, administrators, and most of all, the audacity of these abusive four heartless people of the BISD board are on the agenda that the education of our great students, teachers, parents, and our great Brownsville society of hardworking, proud community. Why did this conspiracy of four amigos and their lawyers subject the BISD community in this needless and underhanded action to take action of personal gain for designers of this painful and ugly divisiveness that distracts, disillusions, and hurts the total community interference by administrative employees of federal, state, and territorial government and high volume of unpaid taxes? How about those BISD property delinquent taxes? How about the delinquent property taxes on the two new board members and senior and counsel of the law firm? And I believe that that's all I have to say at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you very much.
Jaime Vega? Mande? Jamie?
Jamie Vega.
Jamie? Vega? Marta Cantu?
Excuse me. She had asked me to read this letter for her. I thought she was going to be here.
Mike, can she read the letter from her?
I'm sorry?
The lady's not here,
Jamie
and she
Vega.
wants Lucy to read it. I think that if you want to speak to us, you need to sign You could have signed to be in the public audience, Lucy.
Well, I was going to be here with her, standing with her, so I'm sorry, I apologize.
Thank you. Patrick Hams?
Members of the board, Interim Superintendent Springston, my name is Patrick Hammis. It's never dull, is it? I wanted to take the time to talk about special ed testing, but I don't think I'm going to have, with the abbreviated minutes, enough time, so I'm just going to take enough time tonight to, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Springston and Mr. Aguilar for coming to the 30th anniversary of Oliveta Middle School. We had a wonderful celebration, and your words and presence were appreciated by the administration, faculty, and students of Oliveta. I also want to take the time to wish all you board members and all your families a very happy Thanksgiving. And I'll come back in 2 weeks and try and fit in 5 minutes to talk to you about special education testing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Orlando Trevino? Orlando Trevino? Okay, that concludes our... is Lucy still there?
She walked out, sir.
Just give her a message to bring that letter to Mr. Springton. Ms. Moore? Thank you.
Conference presentations. Number 1, presentation of Southmost Elementary 2009-2010 U.S. Department of Education Blue Ribbon School.
Mr. Springton?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the audience. At this time, I'm going to have Ms. Momfowles give us a little presentation. I notice that we've got a lot of blue shirts up front from Southmost. Y'all are never this quiet that I know of. Won't y'all go ahead and stand up and let's start this presentation.
Some of you over here on this side. Mr. Aguilar and Mr. Springston, members of the board, of course, it's a tremendous honor to be here tonight. The first question on everybody's mind, I think, is why Southmost? Why Southmost? Well, because I have with me here a very dedicated and committed group of educators, teachers, staff members, their fearless principal. There he is. Who had a vision, who have a vision, who commit to that vision every single day, who work hard morning, noon, night, Saturdays, Sundays, during vacations to make sure that their students succeed. But in truth, we could really say this about every single one of our BISD principals. And their staffs, their teachers. We have a wonderful group of principals. BISD staff members are fantastic, and I personally always find it a privilege to be able to work with them. So again, I say, why Southmost? Well, when TEA and the U.S. Department of Ed investigated Southmost, they found that from 2004 to 2008, Southmost's fourth grade reading scores went from 65% to 85%. And their fifth grade scores soared from 49% to 98% in that same time period. On top of that, fifth grade commended reading scores in 2004 were at 3.7%. In 2008, they were at 30%. That's a gain of 26 percentage points. So why Southmost? Same thing goes for math. Only 6.7 of 2004's fifth grade math testers ended up commended. But in 2008, they had 52.5% of their fifth grade math students achieving a commended status. So, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Springston, I present to you Southmost Elementary Blue Ribbon TEA Exemplary School.
Mr. Haynes, Mrs. Bonfile, and faculty members, you all know that this is a first for the BISD history.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
How are you? How's your family?
Congratulations.
It's you guys. Great job. So much for No, it takes two. That's a good word. Ever give up on those babies? You know how much we need them. Oh, don't be hijos. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stand up. Picture over here. Thank you. Oh, we'll be at the top. Oh, they won't see us with t-shirts. Hey, I admit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm short.
Okay. Federal racketeer.
See the tallest?
Get on. Get closer now.
Get all the way to the back. All the way to the back. All the way to the back.
Surprise. You gonna make a grand entrance?
No.
Somebody hold this flag. Yeah, some more on this until you read it out.
Well, he is, but.
Perfect.
We can stand on our toes, otherwise you're not see this.
Can you maybe tilt that down? Let me get more. 1, 2, and...
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please keep up the good work.
Ms. Monfils, Mr. Haynes, teachers, do want to thank you for your hard work, your efforts. I know that last week we had a session here in the boardroom where we sat around and had what we call a roundtable discussion of best practices, strategies, and things that we might be able to share. We will share. I'm not going to say might, that we will be able to share with other teachers, other principals on reasons how you got your scores from 49 to 98. These things are done, so that means it can be done with every child in our district, and we understand that. And so I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate you coming to the roundtable discussion. I know that the KBSD made you nervous for a little bit, and we had a good time. And so, you know, your efforts and showing your strategies and presenting your strategies and sharing your strategies and collaborating with one another and collaborating with other campuses, that's where success starts, and that's what gets our kids where they need to be. And I appreciate your efforts, and I want to say thank you one more time.
Anyone else? Ms. Pena?
I want to personally thank you. I had the honor and privilege of traveling with some of you to Washington, D.C., and I had time to meet you, get to know you, and now I know why this school is as wonderful as it is. Your teaching abilities, your personalities, the wonderful people that you are. Thank you, and keep it up, because you are worth your weight in gold. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Anyone else? You guys? Yeah.
I want to thank all of you teachers. I made every effort I could to be able to attend with you and receive that award. I think it's an honor. We're very blessed to have people that do care in our education system, and I think care is the number one priority in any education system. If we care, those children will succeed. If we push them away, they will not succeed. So, if there's anything that that teachers don't get, and it's unfortunate sometimes we can't just splurge. But I think that if we give you all the tools that are needed so you can utilize on a day-to-day basis, I think we can, the sky's the limit for us. And I believe in every child, and I think that every child deserves that chance. But most of all, they have great teachers like you do. And we're very blessed to have teachers like you in our district. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Sayas.
It makes me very proud to be a board member when we have teachers like you out there representing our district, out there going to a national event like you did, getting the accolades that you get on a national level. I mean, that's second to none. You all should be very proud of yourselves, and the hard part you have now is to keep it up. Anyway, good luck to you all, and thank you very much for making our district proud.
Thank you, Mr. Anyone else?
Item 2, presentation by Imagine Brownsville Task Force Co-Chair Fred Rustenberg.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Rustenberg, it is a pleasure to have you among us and with us today. And let's go ahead and talk about Imagine Brownsville.
Thank you, Mr. Sprinkson, Chairman Aguilar, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm representing Imagine Brownsville, and as most of you know, a lot of you have been involved. Over the last 2 years, we went through the planning process to establish a vision for our community. That's been done. The study's been completed. In fact, the study was awarded number 1 by the state of Texas out of 30 communities, so it's an excellent plan. We're now at the implementation stage, and so what is the best way to move forward on implementing this plan? We are in the process of, and we've met several times with 7 of the public entities in Brownsville. We are in the process of establishing a coordinating board for the implementation of this plan. There are 7 entities. The structure that is proposed is to have the executive director and an appointed member of each public entity to represent your respective entities on that board. It's a board for coordinating the plan only. It's not to dictate policy or anything else. And tonight we're here to ask you for your support through a proclamation, also a memorandum of understanding to proceed forward, and a $25,000 commitment that each of the entities are being asked for to fund the first year of administration. And the concept here is very powerful because it allows us to pool our resources, being a very poor community economically. When we go to Washington, D.C., for example, we can go as a united group and ask for certain priority projects in addition to your regular projects. And it has a much bigger impact on receiving funding and asking for funding. We can also pool resources for grant writers and things of that nature. But all of us have a vested interest in this plan because it affects all of us in our Brownsville borderplex. And I know that I'm speaking to the choir, to a lot of you, because you've been involved in this, but I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Mr. Rustenberg, what other entities have already committed, passed it through their boards and the like?
We're right in the middle, or actually starting. The BCIC has approved it. We're asking you this evening. The PUB is next week. JIBIC is this week. The Port of Brownsville is also this evening. UTB is 2 weeks, and the City of Brownsville is in 2 weeks.
All right.
Mr. Springton, anyone else? Doctor?
Mr. President, Mr. Rustenberg, I'm somewhat familiar with the project. I participate in a forum and question and answer sessions throughout these past 2 years. I'm very impressed with it. I know that sometimes there's a difference in opinion as to whether it's cost effective, but independent of that, I think it's an excellent project. The fact that it was awarded first place speaks for itself. Now that the study is completed, the implementation is probably going to be the hard part, but I personally support it very strongly, and I hope that we can implement, that you can implement, that we all can implement as much of it as possible. You can count on my full support.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
We appreciate that that there is an organization that's actually trying to get all the entities together. A lot of people talk all the time that the entities should get together, but there's never an actual action taken. This is the only thing that I see that is actual being taken to go forward, and we appreciate your efforts in that respect.
Thank you.
And again, I thank you and I wish you much success. If you need anything from us individually to help you grow and prosper with this endeavor, don't hesitate to call on us.
Thank you very
We
much.
will, because there's going to be committee members and stuff. So,
I'm just making sure we all understand.
Berg, I've been involved with the project for the last year and a half, 2 years, going to the meetings like Dr. Escobedo, and I like the vision for the city of Brownsville that we are, and we do need to unite and have a common vision toward the direction of where the city is going, also where our district is going. Talking about bond capacities, talking about organization, we're talking about organizing all these type of activities. It can only strengthen what we have, and it can strengthen us as a board, it can strengthen us as a city, and I want to thank you for allowing me to participate and be a part of this very knowledgeable institution.
Well, we appreciate the leadership of all of you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, sir. One last comment. I hope that you, and I believe I saw Dr. Marin and anyone else that's here from Imagine Brownsville, if you can, I think it would behoove you to stay for item number 6. It also has to do with promoting Brownsville, and I think you'd benefit from it as well.
Very well. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg, and we're going to get behind you. We really support, for the first time in many years, we have a group of people at Brownsville that believe that we can go forward and make this community a better community for us and for our future young people. Thank you, sir.
Item 3, presentation on monthly report from the BISD Bond Oversight Committee. Bond Oversight Committee meeting was held on November 5th, 2009.
Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I've just been notified that Mr. Barbosa did not make it and will not be here to present.
Okay.
Item 4, presentation by Estrada and Hinojosa Financial Advisors.
Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is an opportunity to hear a presentation on our QSCB, and that's our Qualified School Construction Bonds, and glad to have Larry here to give us a presentation.
Thank you. Board members, Mr. Springston, my name is Larry Jordan. David Gonzalez is with me. We're with Estrada and Hinojosa Financial Advisors to the district, and we work with you when you sell bonds. I was here a few months ago to talk to you about an opportunity to borrow money using a new federal program, the Qualified School Construction Bonds. And as we indicated then, Brownsville ISD was one of 100 districts in the country, 18 districts in the state to actually receive an allocation. It was a 2009 allocation, and so I told you at the time there's a lot of work to be done, and it's really going to fall pretty heavily on the school district staff. Since you don't have unlimited tax bonds that have been voted, the only way to do this and to still qualify for state assistance is with a lease revenue bond. And what that involves is, as well as a bond closing, which is pretty straightforward, a real estate closing, which sometimes is not. The very morning after the meeting, Mr. Springston convened his staff and ourselves in his office, and we committed to move on down the road. And about a week or two later, your facilities person left the district, which about gave me a heart attack. But I'm really pleased to report that Mr. Springston, Mr. Ruiz, Mr. Fuller, and Mr. Cesar Garza, who has really stepped up and handled the real estate side of it. We've worked closely with your attorneys, with the underwriters. Tina Arias Peterman is here from J.P. Morgan. With Underwriters Council and the trustees. And to keep the project on track, we've been getting together at least once a week and comparing notes. And, we're not there yet, but it sure looks like we're going to get this done. We've prepared a brief presentation for you just to show you on page 1 that interest rates are still very low. It's a good environment for borrowing money. Page 2, we've just listed all the people that are involved in the transaction, most of which we've mentioned. Fulbright and Jaworski, as your bond counsel, has done a lot of good work on this. The concept of the Qualified School Construction Bond is that instead of the district paying tax-exempt interest, the federal government will pay a tax credit. Now, the way this has worked, the federal government establishes a tax credit rate, and that floats up and down, and it sometimes creates the need for a small additional interest payment. So if we were to do it today, I suspect that in addition to the tax credit rate, we would be paying something like 2%. But as you'll see in a minute, that's a pretty low rate, and it saves the district quite a lot of money. There's a lot of information here on the school construction bond program, and I'm glad to answer questions. On page 7, we can see the history of some of these transactions that have sold and the interest rates. There's a column there almost at the end that says supplemental coupon, and depending on the district and the time they sell, they're as high as 0%. I'm sorry, they're as low as 0% and as high as almost 3%. We are expecting that these bonds will be eligible for the instructional facilities allotment, and that the state will end up paying something like 70% of the debt service. So if you think about that, you're able to borrow money at 2%, and then on top of that, the state is going to pay 70% of the principal and interest that's left. So it's really compelling for the district. Under the lease revenue bond scenario, the district will create a corporation, and right now we have a meeting. I believe it's scheduled for the 30th or the 1st.
The 30th, sir.
The 30th.
That's on Monday.
Okay, on Monday we will have the first meeting, and maybe the only meeting, of the corporation. The corporation's purpose, and the corporation's been duly established with the state. They're actually going to issue the bonds under your authority, and the district is going to enter into a lease with the corporation. The corporation board members are going to be the same as the district's board members. So this is just a way that you can create a payment. On the meeting on the 30th, on Monday, you'll be approving the articles of incorporation and the bylaws of the corporation. You'll be adopting a reimbursement resolution, which basically allows you to reimburse any costs that you've incurred with the bonds that you're going to issue, and you'll be approving the release of the official statement, which is like a prospectus. It's the way that the underwriters market the bonds. I think we have provided all of those documents to you, and there's also a memo from Fulbright and Jaworski that basically explains what each of those are. I suspect that the meeting on the 30th it's a very important meeting, just because you need to create the corporation in order to sell the bonds, and we really don't have the kind of time schedule that that we can slip a week or so. So it'll be very important for you to attend that meeting. I think it's a very brief meeting, and then the meeting where the bonds are actually sold is going to be, I believe, December 8th. And on December 8th, there's going to be a lot of documents approved to sell the bonds, enter into the lease, and do everything else that's necessary to get that done. We certainly don't want to surprise anybody, so we will probably send you an email with links or attachments to just about every single document. Most people don't read every single document. It's my job, so I have to read them. Certainly, you're invited to read everything you want to read and ask as many questions as you want. But the note will sort of point out to you which documents are really substantial and which are more, sort of administrative or legalistic. And certainly things like the indenture of trust and the lease agreement are things that you might read. But you can take comfort that your staff's been very involved. Your attorneys are following along. Your bond counsel, who's our attorneys that specialize in this field, are following. So there's a lot of people reading and reviewing the documents. On page, right behind page 8, I'm going to talk just a little bit about the numbers. On the left-hand column, it says tax-exempt open market. And you can really see there that that's the cost of borrowing for this school with tax-exempt bonds. And then we've illustrated several different scenarios of qualified school construction bonds. And I'm not going to go over all of this, but I'm going to make a few comments. One is that we have really focused on the rate and the state assistance, and those are pretty compelling. The other advantage is that even though you'll be borrowing at 2%, the federal government will allow you to invest at a rate as high as 4%. Now, that sounds like a good opportunity. Unfortunately, there's no place today to invest at 4%, but there very well may be over the life of the transaction. And in the case of the debt service, which again is pretty compelling and the state is paying much of it, to the extent that we can generate interest earnings, that is 100% the district's money. So we've shown you here both the debt service and then the offset from interest earnings, and this is very conservatively estimated. And you can see that in the third qualified construction bond scenario, next to the last, we're showing the present value of the debt service is about $5.35 million. The present value of the interest earnings is about $2.83 million. So the net cost to you is about $2.52 million. And that is substantially, I'm at the last number in the green box, substantially lower than any other way that we can do this. It's about $3.3 million lower than the cost of the tax-exempt bonds, the traditional way of financing. So this is, again, very compelling opportunity for the district. When we come back, we'll actually, and the meeting on the 1st, I won't know too much more than I do today. We will create the corporation. We'll answer any questions that you have. When we come back on the 8th, J.P. Morgan will have talked to investors, and they will propose a rate for you. And so we would then recommend, we'll show you an analysis much like this, where we'll show you what the rate was, what the debt service is, what we might expect to earn in interest earnings, how much of it the state will pay, and we'll compare that to a traditional way of doing things. And I suspect that the savings will be significant. But at that time, you'll actually all the numbers and all the blanks in the documents will be filled in. We'll be ready to go, and then we should have the money by the end of the year. There is behind that page, there is a memorandum from Bond Counsel that just explains really the purpose of the meeting on the 30th and the various documents that you'll be approving. And then behind that is about a 3 or 4 page, very detailed timetable that sort of shows you where we've been and where we're going. And as I said, we'll be closing, scheduled to close right now on December 22nd. So we're really excited about it. I'm very relieved. The last time we spoke, I was probably more tentative than I normally am. I told you that we had a lot of work to do, and your staff had even more work to do, and I was hopeful that we would be able to get to closing. But it looks very good now, and again, because the state is going to, we're expecting the state is going to pay a lot of the debt service. The debt service costs are going to be in the 2% range instead of the 4 or 5% range, and then you're going to be able, over the course of the 15 or 16 years, to earn interest on the money that's set aside for repayment. It's really a compelling opportunity for the district. So glad to answer any questions that anybody might have. I don't believe we have action tonight. We just wanted to.
Mr. Saez. Mr. Jordan, this project will still be available for IFA money too?
That's what we're hoping, yes.
So beyond the general interest that you're talking about and the savings we'll have there,
yes,
we could have another savings of 80% of the whole project cost.
Yes.
By getting the IFA money.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the only reason I hedge a little bit. That's a competitive process. It'll happen in June. I suspect that there's going to be enough money and few enough districts ahead of you that you are going to get funded.
Okay, great.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes. You used the word suspect and expect. I mean, are you sure that this is going to, that the state would pay most of it, or
that's
like you
that's why I
mentioned, will pay a lot of the services? I mean, we can't just go by just saying, I mean, I would like
I
to
understand.
see something in writing that comes, that was
Well, let me-
given to you.
Now, let me
and-
explain. Let me
Okay,
explain.
let me finish first.
Sure.
And you see, because when you come to us and you say, I expect, but what if you expect, but then it doesn't happen? Then where do we stand? You know, and the reason why I say this is because if and when we approve certain monies to be placed in bonds, we want to make sure, first of all, that our money's going to be secure. Two, that it's not a variable rate and that it's going to be a fixed rate and that we're not going to lose any money. You know, I mean, it's expected in the market. You'll lose a little here, a little there. But you use expect and suspect. I mean, it's kind of scary, you know. I need for me personally as a board member, I need for you to say this is what it is and this is what is what's going to happen.
Let me tell you what I can tell you and what I can't tell you. I can tell you that that if everything goes through, we'll be here on the 8th, and the bonds will be done, and you will have a fixed rate, and it will be secure, and we will be able to tell you exactly what your interest payment is. And as I say, over the last few months, the interest payments have been under 3%. So that's what I know. Now, here's what I don't know, and why I use the terms I do. I don't know if the real estate is going to continue to go as well as it has. But there's all kinds of things like easements with the irrigation district across the property. And I really don't control the irrigation district, and I really don't know anything about easements myself. So I can't personally assure you that that's going to go through, and I'm not sure anybody can today, but we're confident that it will. You'll know, though, you'll know for sure that we got it fixed or we didn't on the 8th. Now, the other thing I don't know, again, I don't know how many districts are going to apply for state assistance, and some of them may be wealthier than you, and some of them may not be as wealthy. And if a whole bunch of poor districts get in ahead of you, then they will receive state assistance and you will not. I don't think that'll happen. And if it does happen, then we'll have to tell our voters, well, we didn't get the state assistance, but we did get a 2% interest rate, and we do have the ability to earn up to 4% on the money for the next 15 years. So you're not just out in the cold. But those are things that I wish I could be more secure. I guess the other thing is, when we talked about this last time, in the traditional tax-exempt market, and again, that would be much more costly if we were doing that, but in that market, is very established, it's very efficient. I can tell you with virtual certainty that things will get done and that the rate will be what it is. In this case, the 100 districts that I mentioned, many of them have to be done by the end of the year. They're on the same schedule that we are. And so, we don't know on a day-to-day basis who's going to pop up and jump into the market. And this is really an invented market. There's not hundreds of buyers for tax credits. There's dozens of buyers. So we're really hoping that the market holds for us and that there's still an appetite for the types of bonds we're going to sell. But again, there's at least 100 districts out there that are, they're sprinting across the starting line at the same time we are.
And then another question, when did you find out that we needed to adopt or implement this corporation?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
When did you find out that this corporation needed to be created? How long has it been? Because it seems to me that, here we are dealing with monies, and all of a sudden we need to make a decision within 3-4 weeks. We need to implement this corporation. I mean, I think that I feel very uncomfortable when things are brought to me just like this, and we have a very short period of time. And I think that we should be given the opportunity to review it and discuss, and probably even go back and, ask additional questions. But you say that by December the 8th, we have to do all, the corporation and
yeah.
make decisions and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. It bothers me because to me, I know I've had this since last week and I've been reviewing it, but still, at that, I even feel uncomfortable because now I hear you saying expect and suspect, but I guess I'll have to wait until December the 8th.
Well, I've been
Mr.
as
Jordan?
definitive as I can be. I do know that 2 months ago, we did discuss the creation of the corporation. I know that the staff and ourselves were very interested in getting the documents in front of you. So we have provided to you today the documents. Well, we provided in a mailing that went out last week for the meeting today all the documents that you're going to be looking at next week. And the articles and the bylaws they're not lengthy documents and they're not complicated. So I'm like you. I don't like to be surprised. That's why we mentioned it. That's why we distributed the documents. That's why I'm up here talking about it. But certainly, if you have questions next week, we'll answer them. And if you have questions on the 8th, that's when the bonds are up.
Mr. Science?
I believe, Mr. Jordan, we discussed it at a committee meeting, in the facilities committee meeting. Last time you were here, you went through the explanation of the rationale, why it had to go through a corporation, and
Yes.
particular funding under this, because this is a new, you guys are breaking ground on this, right? This is not something you've done before. It's new funding that's come in through the government recently, a whole new program, and that's
Yes.
why we have to do the funding the way we have to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, presentation of Border Patrol Operation Detour.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the audience. I believe we have Mr. Trevino, and you also have another guest with us tonight.
Mr. Guillen.
Mr. Guillen, sir.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Yes, sir.
Glad to have y'all with us. I know that we've been working together, and we've talked on a couple of times. We've looked at some videos. I know you've been working with a lot of our campuses and our schools, and you have some disturbing information for us tonight. I know that, and it's something that it needs to be on, and for our people to know, and for our audience, for our students, and for our parents to know. And so I'm glad to have you with us tonight to give us your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. We've been afforded a couple of minutes, and thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Joe Trevino. I'm a supervisory border patrol agent out of our Valley headquarters in Edinburgh, and patrol agent in charge of the Fort Brown station, Mr. Rico Guillen. We're here just to give you a quick overview and a quick update on some of the numbers and the operation that we're doing. I'm not sure if you've heard about Operation Detour. It was an operation that started out of Del Rio, Texas, and what it is we're trying to target high school students to stay away from smuggling, to ignore or take the detour, if you will, from the lures of the quick money and some of the consequences that go along with that. It started, like I said, it started in Del Rio. One of our HEs over there, one of his daughter's friends was top 10% of his class, got thrown in jail for smuggling some narcotics. It's a problem that we've seen on the rise here in the Valley. However they get involved, sometimes it's in the guise of their friends throwing bags in their cars, and they do it inadvertently, but still they pay the consequences for it. We do it by putting together a panel of subject matter experts, for example, Department of Public Safety, the district attorney's office, and some of the local elected officials, and they'll go up there and tell these students that there are consequences for their actions. And we try to get them to stay in school and finish their education, and that if they do get caught smuggling, that they're going to lose some of the benefits that they would otherwise be afforded, student loans, any other way that they can pay for college, scholarships. We were tasked with targeting anywhere from 80 to 100,000 students in the Valley. It was a huge task when we took it on. And when we came to Mr. Springsteen and Ms. Brown and Dr. Montoya, and it was a hard sell at first because it's a harsh message. But they liked it, and I'd like to commend you for letting us in your schools. To date, we've targeted 40,700 students as of today that we've presented to from Roma all the way here, all the way to Port Isabel in Brownsville, and a little bit north in Raymondville. We presented to over 45,100 people, and of all the students, out of the 40,700 students, BISD, we've hit 9,300 students. So that's a pretty big number. We're there today. We're going to be there tomorrow, and we're going to be there until we're done. Some of the middle schools have opened their doors to us, and we want to tell you that we really appreciate you letting us in the schools, because we think it's an important message. It touches a lot of lives here in the Valley. I know that we had John Johnson, who's a special agent in charge of the FBI. He was telling the students that kidnappings and home invasions are on the rise. You see it on the news every day, but they are the most unreported crime in the Valley. So, and 90 to 100% of these are related to narcotics. Last year, we were over 140% in narcotic seizures in the Valley. And Mr. Guillen here can attest to that. He's an acting assistant chief out of our headquarters right now. Sir?
Obviously, thank you very much for having us here. Operation Detour, what's our stake in this? For us is basically we're part of the community as well. Our families and our sons and daughters are part of that community. They attend the same public schools that everyone else does. For the most part, it's somewhere in the community, even in our ranks, some of our families have been touched by this, where somebody's been lured into, made a wrong decision. There's nobody there to provide a venue as to, hey, this is the consequences of what your actions would curtail. And some of these guys have wound up behind in doing straw purchases for somebody else. Straw purchases is buying weapons for someone else that will be is not able to legally purchase a weapon here, and this guy's wind up paying the consequences and serving time in federal prison. 18, 19, 20-year-old young persons from the community, and I can attest to personally that in our office it's touched some of our members as well. And it's a hard price to pay, especially when you think you've done everything as a parent. Obviously, as an law enforcement community, we're trying to provide that venue for them, assist the school districts or anybody else that's willing to accept this program. We've talked with Chief Garcia and some of the administrative staff here, and that's a program that they can adopt. You being one of the largest school districts in the Valley, I think, you're probably sitting well to probably take this program to a different level and support it by all the subject matter experts and take that message to students as well.
We'll end on the note that I'm sure everybody here is aware of the drug wars that are going south. It's not just a label they give it. It really is. On a daily basis, you hear the killings that go just south of our border, not from Brownsville to Roma. And every day these cartels, they infiltrate the high schools and they recruit for the simple reason they tell the students that they're not going to get in trouble, that they're not going to have consequences. But we try to educate them to the fact that it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not something you can call in sick for. If they lose a load belonging to them, even if it's the Border Patrol, DPS, whoever it may be, they still have to pay for that load somehow. And we have to try to explain that to them, that it's going to come from somewhere. It could be their life, or they're going to end up in jail. And every day they're recruiting. Every day they're killing each other off. And they're looking for new people to do their dirty work for them. So it's an educational campaign, not just, we try to reach out to Rotary clubs, to any type of venues. And if any one of you ever wants one of our teams to go out there and show you these two videos, I think that Mr. Springsteen and Ms. Brown and Dr. Montoya can attest to the fact that they are very powerful videos, in your face, and we've got nothing but positive feedback from the students. We've had students walking out in tears. I don't like to say that, but that they have been affected by it. Their family members have been affected by it, and hopefully that we're making a difference out there. Like I said, of the 40,000 students, 9,300 have come from here, from Brownsville, and we're finishing up even my hometown in Los Fresnos. So thank you for letting us in your school, and we have some pamphlets out there that we actually put together here out of Edinburgh that are being used across the nation for this program. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Yes.
Peña?
How long has this been in operation, this particular program?
It started in Del Rio. Several last year, but here in the Valley, the official kickoff was September 25th at Valley View High School. We had done a few small presentations prior to that, but the official kickoff was September 25th, and we're looking to complete the 80 to 100,000 hopefully. And like I said, we've got 6 detailed agents to do it out of our headquarters, and we're going to keep going until we get everybody.
And you go around, you can come to schools and make presentations of that sort?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know that when we started with a Say No to Drug many, many years ago, we really forgot to tell them, don't sell it. As funny as it sounds, children will follow what you say, but they take it to the letter of the law. You said don't use drugs. You never told me not to sell the drugs.
Right.
I've had kids from good families get arrested. I've seen them. Good, honor kids, but they come from low income. So they buy them by giving them $20 a day to go out and do the dirty work because they have no consequences and no one has come out and painted the picture of the results of their action. So I would really appreciate if we start this program in the elementaries where kids are very impressionable when they're in kinder and first, second, third, fourth, in a way that you can push it to them without the graphics, just the say no. Because if you notice when we did the say no to drugs, kids are now very active when it comes to their parents. If they're drinking or they're doing smoking, they're like, Dad, Mom, that's a drug. You need to stop. And children have influence on their parents. So I'd like to see this program started in all our schools because we told them not to use drugs, and as strange as this sounds, we didn't emphasize don't go out and sell them to somebody else.
Or on the same lines, or smuggling. A lot of students think that, hey, you throw a bundle in the back of the car, or you take this car and park it at Walmart. They don't see the repercussions. They think it's not as bad. They're like, I'm not using drugs, but they don't understand that if they get caught and convicted for this, a lot of times, and one of the videos is a dramatization done by a Sierra Blanca Drama Club, and it shows a female getting put in a situation where it's not her vehicle, it's her parents. She doesn't know about the drugs until halfway into the trip. And then we get a lot of the female students going, well, what's going to happen to her? What happens to her vehicle? And we'll have the district attorney there on hand, or a representative from his office, and he'll tell them, not only is she going to get arrested, she's going to lose her parents' car. And it kind of hits home because it is a dramatization done by high school age students. And and I'd be happy to present to the board anytime that you guys had the time. They're 2 12-minute videos. But if you could see the students, how glued and transfixed they are with these videos, there's hardly any of them talking or joking around because they can relate to it. And in the end, the questions that come out are amazing. So hopefully we're making an impact.
I really appreciate that. And I go back to the same thing. We have to start hitting them very young. Because we are now in a society where we want our 4-year-olds to be able to read a whole book. When they read, they have knowledge, but they don't know about consequences because that mind is too young, because only experience in life will teach you about most of our consequences. So I like to see a program start as early as our elementaries to start putting that in their mind. You will destroy yourself because you're very right in this pamphlet. Once you're in, you're either going to go to jail or you're going to die. That's the only way out. And they don't realize that.
Yes, ma'am.
So I thank you, and I wish you much success, and I'd like to see this in all our schools, starting very young, when we can make an impression in their mind. This is a dead end, and we need to tell them early.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Pat.
Item 6, presentation by Danny Aro of the Trailer of Kings of Brownsville Chess Documentary. Board member request.
Ms. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'll go ahead and let Ms. Pena introduce our guests tonight.
Yeah, this is Daniel Haro from California. He's here to present tonight a short little trailer on a documentary that we're doing, or he's doing, on our children and chess. And we have the chess community here with him today to represent the school that this all started with. And I'll hand it over to you, sir. Thank you for coming, and you may start your presentation. I really
Thank you very
appreciate
much, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you. I've taken a little bit of time to meet each and every one. Hopefully, there were some I didn't get a chance to over the phone, but I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me. And I just want to acknowledge the support from the, as you mentioned, Mrs. Pena, from the school board, from the chess community, and really the inspiration for all of this begins with Rachel Ayala, and followed by J.J. Guajardo, because if it wasn't for these 2 individuals, and specifically Mrs. Ayala, that gave the impetus to tell this or push this man, J.J. Guajardo, into pushing these children, and then years later creating such a momentum that we have now in all of South Texas. And for me, as a filmmaker, having the privilege to document this great story, I believe very strongly that our history is very important to us, that if we don't know our history, we're not going to learn, we're not going to know our present, and then our future is lost. And it's clearly there's a tremendous amount of history in this community, and I'm just privileged to be able to present very quickly the trailer, and then at the end I would like to cede a little bit of my time to Representative Olivera, would like to address. So right now this is the working promotional trailer called Kings of Brownsville, and enjoy it. Thank you. Sorry, little technical difficulties here.
I don't want you to look at each move twice. I want you to look at each move 3 times. You're the only ones who can decide if we're going to win this. And I'm telling you what, everyone's game right now is important.
Today, chess is played more in South Texas than anywhere else in the United States. But this wasn't always the case. In the early 90s, opportunity knocked for a least likely community in South Texas.
Living in Brownsville, you live on the border. We're either the poorest county or the second poorest every time the census comes out.
Matamoros is the birthplace of the Gulf Cartel.
This is a community hungry for an opportunity to succeed at anything that you really believe in.
Our story is a story of obstacles. Its origins were among the kings and queens and rulers of our world.
In a game where they were seen as pawns.
We went in there as absolutely no one, nobody, nothing. All we had were our black shirts and our pride.
It doesn't matter. Don't even look at the ring. You look at what you can do. Remember, you're playing. You're the ones in charge. You're the boss.
Win was not likely to happen. Mexicanos, some of them illegal, and there was nothing there that resembled that at all.
They had slacks and they had nice shoes and belts, and I mean they went all out. We went there with our solid black shirt, and at least we matched. So everybody was in either torn jeans or sneakers or chanclas, you know.
What if your wealth doesn't determine your intellect?
In that one area that didn't require proficiency in English.
Hundreds and hundreds of kids in these huge convention centers.
Do you all want to be champions? Yeah! Let's go get them.
I'm really scared right now. I'm okay. I still have tomorrow. I was nervous.
We knew that we were good.
And we're neck and neck with them all the way to the end.
Checkmate.
We didn't know how good we really were.
If they could muster up the courage and the will to perform, that they would accomplish something that had never been accomplished in South Texas before.
When we came back to the school, as Miguel said, we caravanned. They had blocked off the street.
expected the success that we held when we went on that first tournament.
It was joyous. It was wonderful. It was definitely a community. It gave us a mirror to see ourselves in a completely different light.
In the end, not only did they belong there, they owned it. They owned that room when they left.
Russell Elementary School holds the record for 7 consecutive Texas state championships. Together, they turned despair into hope and changed the face of Brownsville, South Texas, forever.
So someday I will be a chess master.
That is roughly a quick promotional trailer of our story. And as I said, right now, Representative Rene Oliveira wanted to say a few words to address the board. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Hotto. Mr. President, Mr. Springsteen, ladies and gentlemen, and honorable members of the board, I've only testified in my 25 years of public service before you one other time, and that was about school finance a long time ago. I'm really excited to be part of this project and ask for your support today. When I met about 10 days ago with Mr. Hotto and with JJ, the man you saw on there, JJ and I go way back. My grandmother used to live next door to him, and we'd often kick the ball into his yard, and sometimes he'd keep it. Sometimes he'd throw it back. But anyway, we go way back, and I don't know if this project should just be called the Kings of Brownsville, because there are girls involved too, and perhaps it should be the Kings and Queens. But I am here to tell you that I think this project should be supported. More often than not, we only hear about the bad things that happen in our communities and in our schools. And here we're talking about one of our greatest success stories. These children, what they did starting back in '93, and now in national competition and doing so much, is incredible. One of the things I told the supporters of this project that I would do, and perhaps make this a little easier for you in your deliberations about supporting it financially, was to check with the Texas Association of School Boards, the Texas Education Agency Legal Counsel, a good friend David Anderson, as well as with our own attorneys in Austin at the state capitol, our Texas Legislative Council attorneys, was to confirm that your support of this would be a lawful and appropriate expenditure, and it is. The expenditure simply must be one, and it is at your discretion, the amount, of course, and it is at your discretion to support it or not, but it simply must be one that highlights the accomplishments and shows this as a motivational tool to all the students in Brownsville, as well as really, if a documentary is created, which I believe we can do. A significant amount of money has already been raised from the community, from private sources. But I know that this is going to take a lot more. And I know that there are always people watching your actions and my actions in Austin on how we spend taxpayer dollars, and I can't think of a finer thing to support. And we not only will be supporting and celebrating the accomplishment, we will be sending a message to each and every child in our school district, the over 50,000 children that there are, as well as to all the children elsewhere who will be viewing this documentary and be using the motivational tools and the educational documents that will be prepared. These are proper expenditures. I leave it up to your school board attorney to verify this and review it. I'm sure he will do a good job. The only issue that I was not able to clarify was, is there an issue at some amount, and we raised that, I believe, to $50,000, if you would need to be looking at going out for public bids. Now, obviously, that would not work in this particular situation because this is the group that can do it. From everyone I've spoken with, they have a proven track record. Their heart is in this. They have spent a lot of money on their own in promoting this project and being down here for several weeks. And I just wanted to lend humbly my support for it and ask you to be as generous as you possibly can, because I think this puts Brownsville on the map again, and maybe even in a greater way, and perhaps a much greater way than the incredible awards that have been accomplished during your tenure. So I would close with that. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but I did my own research along with working with 3 different sets of attorneys, 3 different groups, to verifying that it is an appropriate and lawful expenditure. And it's not often here I'm urging you to spend money. In fact, I don't think I've ever been here urging you to spend money. But I think even those that are very concerned about taxpayer dollars would like to see this project go forward. And I very humbly and with all sincerity offer my unconditional support.
Ms. Garcia.
Yes, I'd like to share this with the rest of the board and my colleagues. When I was up in Houston on October the 2nd and the 3rd, I was approached by somebody that gave me this. And with that came a little background with it, that engaging our young child's mind through chess program, and that you can teach that through the classrooms by using critical thinking, improving social skills, and increasing overall academic achievement. So when I went to that training or that class that they had, there was other districts, and we were told that this TA had stated that it could even come out of Title I money. So if any district would want to implement anything into the system that would help the students of any district, that there was title monies under Title I that could be used. So I'd like to share that because I know that my child, one of my boys, has struggled through his, through the elementary level, and he did join chess, and he's done fairly well. So I know that my 2 oldest did get to play chess, and I hope that we're all on board on this and that we can support this so we can try to see how many more of our students. I mean, right now I think we have over, 300 students in the district that play chess, more or less? What would you say?
Maybe like a couple of thousand.
Couple of thousand.
Wow.
700 showed up at Hannah this last weekend, and that was only part of them.
Mr. Sayas?
Yes. I was just noticing on a procedural standpoint, we don't have that set for an action item today. It was only put on as a presentation item, so you need to encourage the people behind this to bring it back as an action item. We also need to be, it is on there?
No, it's not.
Okay. As an action item or resolution or whatever.
Well, I probably took too much time, really, because I know there's other people that want to address this and really have been more involved. But for whatever it was worth, I wanted to
we appreciate you coming
for your support.
We appreciate you coming forward because I do believe that this does expand the mind, especially in critical thinking, and that's something you can't teach. It is something that has to be developed. And so if there's a way to pay for this, I think it's a good thing.
Well, I think we will eventually see this documentary on PBS and elsewhere, and it'll put BISD on the map in a wonderful way. And I think it will gain us recognition and make us even more eligible in the future for other grants and funds. So you can probably look at this respectfully as an investment that you will reap more money from in the future when people see the Brownsville success story that will be told by this documentary, and the children that will be served by the educational materials that will be produced as well.
I think it can also be used to recruit other students within our district that are currently not taking chess on, and as a motivational factor.
Again, I'm sorry I take so much time, but I almost feel like I should play the theme of Rocky. I mean, when I saw those kids doing that, it just got me that excited. But I look at it this way. If we saved back in 93 and 94 maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 children from going on to become dropouts, from being part of that 9th grade spike, We've already saved this money many times over, and now with thousands of children participating and getting that critical thinking and these analytical skills that come from this isn't a game. This is a thinking challenge for our children, and it is very effective, and it has given them the confidence. Almost each and every one of these kids that I can track has gone on to be an incredible success story. I'm not going to say it was just because of this project, but it had a lot to do with it. And for some of them, it may have been the only reason. Thank you very much.
Dr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Oliveira and Mr. Otto. I met Mr. Otto maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I'm somewhat familiar with the project. I know the community has been very supportive, and there's been quite a bit of private donors, and it's very encouraging to see this from the community. I'm somewhat familiar with the project, and I support it completely. But as I explained to Mr. Otto, the problem with me is not whether I support or not, is how can we do it? We can't just say that we have the money, well, let's go ahead and contribute. We need to look very closely where we can get these funds, whether it be Title I or fund balance or wherever we can get some money without jeopardizing the budget for the future. And I know, Mr. Springston, that you will look into it along with finance and staff. And I know that several figures have been brought up. I think we need to know what the options are. How much is it that this project will require? How much will be can BISD participate with as far as dollar amount, and where these funds can come from, because I believe that this is a very worthwhile project, not only for the school district but from Brownsville. And I do believe, like I share the same sentiment as the rest of my colleagues, that chess does help develop critical thinking skills. It keeps the students entertained, and some of us adults as well. So let's look closely as to how we can get these fundings without jeopardizing our budget, and let's focus on a dollar amount, Mr. Otto, Mr. Springston, so we have something to work with. With that said, I think I'll pass the floor.
Well, I think everybody in the board at least knows that we support the program, so otherwise we have not budgeted all these years. But I share the same concern with Dr. Escobedo that this needs to be looked at, and that is why you all need to come with our superintendent and bring that proposal so he can look at it and make some recommendations to the board. It's just, like you said, Dr. Escobedo, we're talking about figures, and we just want to make sure that those items are budgeted or whatever needs to be done. However, as for support, everybody supports it. But the process starts with the superintendent, bring the proposal, sit with him, and later on he will make recommendations. Ms. Peña?
Thank you, Mr. Haro. And I am noticing here in the packet that you gave us in this blue folder, where you have 150 educational components, 4 teacher training seminars, plus 1,500 DVDs that would include training for children to take home and be able to enhance their chess abilities on their own. So that's part of the package in our support. Am I correct in stating that?
Yes, ma'am. And additional DVDs, additional study guides, but from a budgetary standpoint, that's what we started with. But DVDs, I mean, I can give every single person in Brownsville a DVD for free. So those are obviously a little cheaper to make. But yes.
And I noticed that you have a $313,000 budget. You have raised $139,000. And you're lacking $174,000, and you want us to support with whatever that we can. And I'm here to tell you that I will stay on it, and I don't want to hear that it takes 3-4 years to have a resolution. I don't want this at the back burner, because this is about our children and our educators, because these are the teachers that are out there getting a tiny little stipend to work year-round for chess. And I'm going to stay on it so we can bring it to the forefront, because this does help children. I've seen kids that had problem with behavior. I've seen children that couldn't sit still. I've seen children who had learning differences that have shined because of this, because it taught them that they have a brain, and if they're willing to develop it, they can go as far as their counterpart. They can go as far as they want. I'm 100% behind this, and like I said, I know everyone here supports it, but I will commit to you that I will stay on it so we can do something and put our money where our mouth is, for lack of a better term. And I appreciate what you do in this film, and I'm asking, if you we do a documentary, do you see down the road a possibility of a feature film?
Well, there's really three components, Mrs. Peña, and I haven't talked about a feature film because that's a whole different discussion. Yeah. But ultimately, that's our goal, to make a feature film, which I think will just broaden the exposure, push the entire project, which includes the documentary and study guides, to a whole different level. 10 years ago, I worked on Stand and Deliver as an actor and also as part of the marketing. We worked with Phase, which is also our 501c3 partner again, and we were instrumental in recruiting 2 to 3 new college students into the ranks of teachers. So I know, I can tell you that this, in many ways, program is even more, the potential for success is even greater. I'll tell you quickly why, because when Mr. Jaime Escalante left, the program, in a sense, kind of fell down. So it was the power of that one personality, very incredible individual, no doubt, affecting kids. But it's clear here, as I mentioned, started by Mrs. Ayala and JJ. When JJ particularly left, the seed had already been planted. These two individuals had planted the seed, and that seed grew. The roots took, and from that original class, there were many students that went out and taught chess to all the surrounding schools. The interesting thing about this is it started maybe at Russell, then went to Morningside, Paredes. Each school in this district has taken its lead and gone on to create its own mark. And to hear that we still need to incorporate more students in this district into chess, I feel strongly that this is a supplement to do that. This will be even more of an encouragement to get all of our kids into chess. And I'm dedicated to not only this community, but I know in my own town in East Los Angeles, they're struggling to figure out how to create a chess program. It's here. The solution, the formula is here. And I think we're packaging it, getting it out, and I very strongly see that this, as Representative Oliveira said, that this can be something that's a template for other school districts and other students as well.
Mr. Aguilar.
And yes, I'm not done yet. Is it okay, guys? One more thing. I've lived this for 8-9 years, and to walk into any competition in this country, all the way from Portland, Oregon, all the way to the East Coast, the North, and back down to the South, when you walk into a place and they ask you where you're from, and you say Texas, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth, you're not from Brownsville, are you? And we say yes, and they sit there and just hold their breath, is something to make you proud, because these kids will come and say, I'm scared to death. I said, you're not as scared of them as they are of you. Just say you're from Brownsville and you're already ahead of the game. And it worked every time.
Yes, Mr. Huddle, on I believe you probably have it through phases. Am I correct? Like for the fees or the cost, in order for us to be able to have this done, what would be, if you, let's say if you were to tell us right now, well, for the DVDs and for the, I believe all the, what's going to be given to us in the package or in the...
It's all broken down in the budget. It tells you the different costs.
So let's say that the amount that you have given is here. Mm-hmm. Will that help to be able to make the film as well?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So that means that we would be a great part of this film, and you're going to focus on us, right? Just Brownsville, right?
Well, it is called the Kings of Brownsville, and maybe now the Queens, as Representative Oliveira said.
I think we need to add Queens, too. But that this would make that happen. But do you also foresee that maybe there's also grants out there? Do you in your experience, like you said, you did that other film?
Absolutely. As you'll see in the packet, the number of donors that FASE has received, they have an incredible reputation in the federal government and grants across the country, private foundations from Ford Foundation to others. So yes, our goal, and again, just to reiterate, I'm not coming here in essence saying, look, we're totally, we want you to fund everything. We're asking for an amount, that's right, but we've also put our time and our money, and we're looking through other sources as well. I see this as a partnership, and all of us, from ourselves, the filmmakers, to everybody included, we're asking that we all join together and try to help make this a reality.
Mr. Aguilar, with your permission, may I address the board? Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springton. I just want to give credit what credit is due. And the reason this started at Russell, it wasn't in '93, it was way back then because of children that we needed to keep busy to not get into trouble. But I really want to give credit to Mr. J.J. Guajardo that's in the back. And he's our Jaime Escalante from Brownsville. J.J., come forward. If he would step forward. He's the one that worked many hours without getting reimbursed, without anything, just for children. He's our Jaime Escalante. And like Daniel Haro said, when Jaime Escalante left, the program went down, and not here in Brownsville, because it was all about children. It was all about caring, and that's the way it got started. JJ, from the bottom of my heart, for the so many kids that you have affected, thank you so much. Thank you for my kids.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's also one more reason that I think that you all need to help with this project, and that would be that I don't have the exact numbers, but I would be willing to bet that in the past 10 years, there have been more students in Brownsville that have gotten scholarships for chess than they have been for football, at a fraction of the cost. So I'm going to try, to really hope that you support this, and thank you so much for your audience tonight. Thank you, esteemed board.
Mr. Aguilar.
Dr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one final comment. I want to thank Mrs. Ayala for her role in all this. I listened to some of the testimonials that a couple of weeks ago, I believe, at the night of the fundraiser, and the testimonials were very inspiring, very encouraging, just very, very, very touching. So thank you for your role in this. Ms. Ayala, my former, very, very mean principal. Maybe I should have been playing chess. I wouldn't have gotten so much trouble with at Russell. Yeah. So thank you.
And Mr. Guajardo, if you could come up to the podium. Just 1 second. I want to personally thank you, because we have a lot of children who have excelled, who've gotten full scholarships. I'm talking about tuition, fee, books, dorm, because of the teachings that you taught them. And I want to personally thank you, because you did that for my children. So I personally am indebted to you for their success in that area.
Thank you, Ms. Peña.
Thank you, and continue. And I know that you're now up the valley, and I also thank you, because now you're educating them and making them our opponents and giving us a competition.
We're trying, ma'am. Thank you.
You're doing a very good job. Thank you, and many continued success to you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Colunga?
I also wanted to express my support for this documentary. It's very exciting, every aspect of it, and whatever it takes to get it approved, we'll find the funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cortez.
Yeah, Mr. Otto, I had the pleasure of visiting with you and Dr. Carmen Rocco on this project, and having viewed that trailer before tonight, I can tell you it was very inspiring, and I can see how our young children in chess and those that aren't in chess would be inspired to enter the program with that short trailer. I could imagine what the end result would be and all the educational components that would come with it. And, going back to what everybody else is saying, getting some of those kids who would get in trouble, like Ms. Ayala referenced, keeping them busy, occupying them, giving them an opportunity to do something different. Some of the children in Brownsville, I think I've heard Mr. Aguilar say this, when he shared a story about going out to the beach. He had never been to the beach. The program that we have funds for a lot of these students that do well in the program, and the district will pay for them to compete at some of these tournaments out of town. So it gives them a broadening of their horizons for some of those students whose families couldn't otherwise afford to get them into some of these other communities, and it shows them that there's a lot more out there if they expand their horizons. And having viewed your trailer, I think personally I was inspired, and after visiting with you and talking to you about your vision, where you see this project headed, I'm sold, And I think it's just a matter of administration signing on to it and bringing it back to us as some type of an action item so that we can figure out what the next step would be, and so we can get you started as soon as possible. Because I'm sure we're going to have more state champions this year.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure we're going to have more national champions this year. And so no better time than the present.
Absolutely, Mr. Cortez. Thank you. And just one last statement I'd like to make is I think that we very much are dedicated to telling our stories. I mean, I love history, among other things, but I also know that I believe we're doing the story not just for other people outside of Brownsville or outside of the Hispanic community, but I also think we're educating ourselves as well, because we have to know who our heroes or role models, people like from Jaime Escalante to J.J. Guajardo to all the wonderful individuals that make up this community. I think it's important that we document our history and to know that, and I asked this, I screened the film in front of 200 parents Saturday, and I asked the question, how many of you know where all this started? And no one raised their hand. And that's bad and good. Good in the sense that people just assume chess is here, and that's great. We accept it, let's get going, get our kids into it. But at the same time, it's only 16 years ago, and it's already been forgotten. The story has been forgotten in many ways. So I think it's important to document the history of Brownsville and document the successes that the Russell and all the schools in this city have experienced. So thank you very much.
Mr. Springston, can you do us a favor? Can you, I'm making a move to Title I and see what we can do, or what we can start looking at the numbers and get with them and see, you know, what we can do for them and how we can work together and make sure that we make this happen, please. I know that we're always doing budget amendments. I feel that if you look at Title I, you know, I mean, obviously we were all told, there was like about 100 of us in Houston in that one class, and we were told there's districts that are using monies from Title I for children that are struggling with math and for children that need to develop their critical thinking. So I asked you to please look into that, and if they may get a hold of you, and then we'll take it from there.
I did have an opportunity to meet Mr. Hotto, and we sat down and we had a nice conversation. We went from high numbers to low numbers. I'm in low numbers, he's the high numbers, and I said there's probably something in between. I would like to sit down with you, and we did discuss that possibility of looking at some resolutions, memorandums of understandings, and Representative Oliveira, I would love to sit down with both of you so that we could have that opportunity to take a look at this, so we can look at what we need to do for our district and for our kids.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perez.
Thank you.
Item 7, presentation of the Brownsville Independent School District Quarterly Consultant Report for the first quarter of fiscal year 2009-2010.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I have any questions while most of the audience is leaving, I would the chess
There are
program.
number in chess.
Numbers in chess. Mr. Reese, if you don't have any questions, Mr. Reese is available.
Power numbers.
30 questions? Nope. Pat?
Item 8, presentation of the Brownsville Independent School District Financial Report for the period ended September 30, 2009.
Ms. Sprinton.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Again, I have Mr. Reese available to ask any questions on any financial reports during this time period.
Questions? Ms. Perez.
Item 9, presentation of the notification of contingency fund change orders.
Ms. Sprinton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have item 4, item 7, item 8, and also an item off of Old Carmen Street improvements. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those things. Also have Cesar is here if we have any questions on the change orders.
Questions? No?
Item 10, discuss and review public information request procedures for the process of the request and include the Open Records Act. Board member request.
Sprinton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is board member request, Ms. Garcia.
Yes. I brought this agenda item up because, well, you want to? Yeah, well, they'll get it here. I was reviewing this Texas Public Information Act approved in 2009, TASA and TASB, and this one wasn't one of the other items that I attended to when I was up in Houston. But the thing is that I've received numerous emails where there's people that have told me that they're not getting their public information. So as I read on one of the items on page number 2, it says, what are some examples of public information? And then it goes into detail. The following are some categories of information considered to be public information. So are we contradicting ourselves when it says a complete report, audit, evaluation, or investigation made of or for by a governmental body? And then it's got another one, information in an account, voucher, or contract relating to the receipt of expenditures of public or other funds. So why is it that I keep seeing more and more public information requests having to go through our counsel or through the law firm to decide if that's going to be public information or not? You know, it says here, Mr. Springston, as a matter of fact, it even, it's detailed as to who's the one in charge, you know, that, to give this public information. So are you aware that there's many public information requests? I at least have had 10 with the numbers that they get the copy and they've sent me. For instance, this one I just got on the 17th of November, you know, and again, it specifies certain information that was requested, and, you know, it bothers me that we're having to go through legal, and those are fees that we're getting billed for. Don't we have someone that can make the decision and go by this documentation as what it says as to the Public Information Act? Because, I mean, by God, if I get a public information request and I'm the administrator, I'm going to go down and if I'm familiar with what's on my document, say, yes, you know, work on the document. Or is it happening that we're receiving it and it's going through legal? What's the process right now? Because I've received at least, you know, this is my 10th email on public information requests that they have not gotten information. And as I go and I read this document over and over, and then I see the invoice for legal, and it's got for public information request, it bothers me. It bothers me, Mr. Springston, because administrators get paid to make decisions. Why should we be running all the time to go to legal?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know I worked with Ms. Brown, and I know I'm the one that's ultimately responsible for any PIO, and works through her department, who has been doing this for 17 years. And I know that over the last couple of months, I think we looked at probably over 90 requests that come in for us for various reasons whatsoever. I did note that there are a few that were under legals to see if it was something that we could release. There were a few items in there, of course, that cost a fee. There were people that were asking for certain items, and there was an extravagant fee, and they never came by and they picked up because they didn't pay the fee for what it costs in order to use the manpower for that PIO request. Ms. Brown, is there anything else that I need to refer to there?
Yes, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston, members of the board. In preparation for this agenda item tonight, we reviewed about 6 months of our requests, and I can tell you that we're averaging between 30 and 45 requests a month. And out of those we counted, and we may refer 3 to 5 to the attorney each month.
Okay. And, you know, I'd like to bring it to the attention of administration. From now on, Mr. Springston, I would like for the whole board to receive copies of those requests that are going to be referred to the attorney. As a matter of fact, just set, because like that, when I get the invoice and I have to check and balance what we're getting billed for, you know, I notice that there's a number, but it doesn't reflect to public information. So I would like for public information officer to submit to you, and because right now I know that I haven't received the latest logs of the attorney, fees or the hours that he spends or that council spends in departments doing whatever he needs to do. The last one I received, it must have been like about 2-3 months ago. So I'm going to put it in writing. I'm going to send an email, because like that, when somebody sends me an email, I know, well, no, it's okay. It's already been taken care of. But, you know, I'm finding more and more emails saying public information has not been given. You're a violation of a Public Information Act. I'm not. Then somebody obviously is not following the protocol or the procedures that it states here.
Or maybe somebody's not telling you the complete story, because what I see is when we get a request, we keep a date. I know that we followed the section 551, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
It's 552.
There are so many days and time period. We know who we've given it to. We know what department we've given it to. We've got a clear set of procedures that we give out to departments to make sure that the information is given back in time, and it's then checked and double checked again, and we make sure that we meet these deadlines.
Okay, so on the insurance part, I know that there was some public information requested a while back, like 2-3 months ago. And obviously they only got a certain piece of paper or a certain document. Why is that? So we only give what we want, or do we give what is needed or what is requested on the document?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. There was a public information request, and the PR number there was a public information request by a gentleman back in September. And just recently, they requested the November and December invoices submitted to the Brownsville Independent School District for mutual insurance third-party administrator for BISD group medical plan. Is there a reason why we cannot release that type of information? Can somebody answer me why we wouldn't be able to release that type of information?
Mr. Aguilar.
Mr. Saldana.
Mr. Springston. The questions that Ms. Garcia brings are very general questions. Okay, the Public Information Act has over 100 exceptions to the release of public information. It is always a balancing act that the law tries to achieve in terms of the public's right to know, which is the basis and the policy behind the law, with the balancing of, for example, confidential information regarding individuals, personnel information, proprietary information, other information that by state law or policy should not be given to the public, such as private donors. Like I said, there's over 100 different exceptions in addition to the common law exceptions. And I'm talking just in generalities now, because I'm not quite sure exactly what Ms. Garcia is referring to, because we've had a couple of those requests. I do know that the AG has ruled that some of that information is proprietary in terms of, and the other exception has to do with the bidding process, in that we anticipate and our purchasing department goes out for bids, receives confidential information from bidders, makes a determination, and those individual bidders have certain proprietary information in the quotes, in the customer lists, in their subcontracts that they may have. And in one of those, the AG ruled that that was in fact proprietary information. Of course, the Balancing Act is to encourage vendors to give us the best quotes and the best information, and to do it in such a way that it's not going to hurt them competitively. So then again, that's the Balancing Act that we talk about, in that, yeah, we do want to do business as open as possible, but we do want to encourage a bidding procedure that's going to encourage the vendors out there to give us the best possible prices. And that's the Balancing Act that the law foresees and takes into account. Now, the other issue is that a lot of these things fall into several different, one particular item might be proprietary, it might be personnel, it might be audit, all in one. So there might be 4 or 5 different exceptions that at times may apply to one single request. It depends on the character and the nature and where we're at in terms of the procedure at the time of the specific audit, an investigation, personnel matter. And so one particular request might be cloaked with 3 or 4 or 5 different exceptions that need to be taken into consideration. I can say this, that in close to 7 years of doing this for this particular district, only once on a procedural issue did the AG indicate that we needed to release information on issues that we had requested. In other words, we have tens of times that we've been to the AG's office and have been upheld by the AG's, with only 1 or perhaps 2 that I can remember in that 7-year period where the AG has indicated no. Okay? Now, that's just a preliminary process. Thereafter, there's other processes that can be taken into effect for a variety of different reasons. But it's, unfortunately, it's not as simplistic as picking up a piece of paper, attending a 1-hour seminar, and being able to determine what a public information thing is or not. Ms. Brown and I, we work. She refers probably 5% of the requests she gets to me. Of those, maybe 20 to 25% get sent to the AG. Most of them I will send back to her with a review and an indication that it is public information. So the ones that actually do seek protection are very, very few.
And I think what you're telling us, Mike, is there's always a legal aspect of those public information requests. And of course, what we're doing is protecting our district from any lawsuits. I'll address you in a minute, ma'am. I'm trying to understand what you're telling us.
You're correct, sir. That ultimately is the mission goal of my review, in that release of information would not expose the district to a lawsuit from a third party.
Ms. Garcia.
Yes. You know, I find it very hard to believe and digest what I've just been told, but then that's just my feeling. You know that I went through the month of April, May, June, July, 4 months of public information request. 2 of them were funny, how one of them was mine and the other one was my colleague here to my right. We didn't seem to have any problem in releasing that information. But then again, we have nothing to hide. So, you know, they released that information. Did they even bother to run that document through you before it was released?
Are you asking me a question,
Yes,
ma'am?
sir.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you recall when they asked for public information on you, sir? One time? It was just recently, I believe,
Okay,
or
yeah, I
like
think I
4
know
months
what you-
ago.
you're right,
And I asked you, I said, sir, do you recall that, that they asked for public information in regards to your campaign? And he said, oh, yes, they did. I said, wow, funny. So they asked for mine, too, and they didn't seem to hide anything. They didn't seem to protect us at all. So those are my
Well,
questions.
to answer your question, ma'am, no, that was not referred to me.
Okay.
That's
Well, you
pretty
see-
standard knowledge, and those are the 90% that Ms. Brown handles, because it's fairly an easy call on those.
I think what they requested of me, if I'm correct, were just my finance reports, my campaign reports, which are fairly public anyway.
Yeah, but you see, right here, it seems to me that right here is in black and white, and it's telling me a completed audit report, evaluation, or investigation made of. I think what you're trying to tell me is you decide, legal decides, yes, this one, no, this one. So just put it to me like that.
I make a recommendation, ma'am.
Well, I think that's very unfair for the public that wants information, and I think that if we're going to continue to send all this information to the attorney generals to review, I think that's devastating to the taxpayers' dollars because we're getting billed for that. And then if we're going to be suing the attorney general because they give us an opinion, that's even worse. You know, I mean, somehow this is given to us for a reason. And I think we need to not deviate from these things. I think we need to start following them more clearly because these are put out there for board members and for whoever needs to follow these guidelines to do so. Or then why go to these trainings if this doesn't really matter to us then? Obviously, these are trainings. I mean, I marked off that I attended this training, and I got credit for that. So it defeats the purpose of me going to a training if I'm not even going to practice what they're telling me to do.
Well,
I mean, I rest my case. I mean, there's not a win-win situation here, and it's sad. It upsets me because I go to these trainings and it's put to me in black and white, and it's put together by the attorney generals. But I must just say, don't follow that. Just forget about the process because it's not what you want, and it's not what it says in the document. It's what we believe it's right.
Let me, in fairness to the administration, I think they're doing an excellent job with public relations request. In terms, I guess everyone has gone through your training, Mrs. Garcia, and it amazes me that I could be there in an hour and I can absorb all that information and expertise that you claim you have. Because I'm not a lawyer, and this is why I depend on the lawyer to, when there's a question by the administration, to say, this is something we're not clear on the request. I need the attorney to explain it to us, make some recommendations. And I think the board understands that we're here to protect the district, not just to say we're wasting money. I don't think that the intent of the administration is just to spend taxpayers' money, but rather to save us from further lawsuits because someone wants certain information that is not attainable by law. Ms. Brown, does all those requests, do you ever assign a number?
Yes, sir. We assign numbers.
Perhaps Ms. Garcia would like to bring those 15 requests that she has on hand, because they all must have a number.
Yes, sir.
And that perhaps you may want to verify with the copies that you have in your records to see that maybe you missed something. Because if she's saying 15 in 2 months, perhaps that's a lot of requests. Why don't they all check each other's number? See if they have a number that you send. Anyone else?
And Mr. President, let me correct you. I didn't mention 15. I said 10.
Well, 10. Good. Even 10. Even 10, Why don't you give her the number so they can verify it? So if there was a mistake, we want it to be corrected. We don't want to deceive the public or deny any information. So submit the numbers. Let Mrs. Brown see what they are and see what happens. Anyone else? Thank you. Pat?
Item 11, board calendars.
Ms. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have a college planning tomorrow night on the 18th. This is at the CAB Auditorium. We want to invite all of our parents who are working with going into secondary or post-secondary education to make sure that they work with us at the CAB Auditorium tomorrow night at 6:30. We have our high school district all-region band competition, which will be in Harlingen this Saturday on the 21st. TMEA district and region choir concerts at 6 o'clock in Donna this Saturday. We do have a lot of things that are taking place during this week. Next week, of course, is just 2 days of school, and then we start our Thanksgiving holidays. Want to make sure that everyone has a nice, restful vacation. It's kind of hard to believe that it's already Thanksgiving because just around the corner is Christmas. But we do encourage and we do wish everyone to have a blessed holiday. And of course, our board meeting on the 1st is on the agenda for a possible change, and the reason why I wanted to make that change is mainly because of the fact that if we don't, then all agenda items are due tomorrow by noon. I don't think we have any of them in because of the Thanksgiving holidays that are coming up next week, and we'll make that a little bit later on during the board meeting, sir.
All right. Any questions on the calendar? Pat?
Item 10, recommend approving the consent agenda. The board has agreed to discuss the following items. All of the items below that are not called out will be approved by consent.
Our colleagues would like to discuss the following numbers. Number 12, 14, 17, 38, 40, 41, cash lots 43, 45, cash lot 46, And Personal Matters, 66, 67. And of course, we come back to approve those items that we circle.
And 68.
And close items. And to discussion with the attorney, legal issues, 68, 69, and of course, 67 and 68 will come back on the closed meeting, after closed meeting to open meeting, right? Any questions? Mr.
To approve.
Being motion to approve?
I'll second.
It's been second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous, okay. Back.
Item 12, recommend approval of resolution number 18-0910 relating to the Board of Trustees of the Brownsville Independent School District, authorizing and approving the creation of the Brownsville Independent School District Public Facility Corporation to act on behalf of the Brownsville Independent School District as provided by the Public Facility Corporation Act, as amended, authorizing and approving the articles of incorporation and bylaws for the Public Facility Corporation and other matters in connection therewith.
You know, we're in a hurry to signing, circle this item that forgot to, who requested it, but was you, Ms. Garcia, number 12, 14, and 17?
Yeah, 12,
Okay.
14, and 17. But my question was, well,
Yes.
you know, this was something, I guess, that because of the guidelines, that,
Okay.
because of the money that's coming in, he answered the question,
Okay.
basically. And I just felt very uncomfortable voting on it today.
Okay, so number 12, it's
I'll move to approve.
it's been moved to approve. It's been second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those in opposed, nay. Record one nay, please. 14, the same way, Ms. Garcia.
I had a question on that.
Okay.
She needs to read it.
Item 14, recommend approval to purchase Study Island license renewals and software products in the amount not to exceed $447,593 from budgeted campus, local, and categorical funds for the 2009-2010 school year. Products and services to be rendered are subject to the district needs and funding.
It's the only way here.
On that one, that license, how long have we had that license in place, or that software to, we need the license to be able to use the software?
Mrs. Brinton.
Ms. Monfils?
Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springson, members of the board, we have probably been using Study Island at various campuses since about 2001. It's an annual license.
Yeah. And the teachers and everybody's okay with the program? It works okay? They have no problems with it?
The campuses are the sole deciders of whether or not they want to use Study Island. So this is not a district initiative. Campuses that have been successful with it, that like it, wish to continue, will be able to do so. It is a simple campus decision.
So how many campuses would you say that that more or less within this budget would be able to utilize that license?
I believe that attachment A probably has 15 to 20 campuses that used the license in the past. I spoke to a couple of them today who are very eager for this evening's approval so that they can submit their PO tomorrow and be able to have the current license. There are some of these that are on this list that may not choose to renew their license for this year. That will be a campus decision.
And those lists also start on page 172, Ms. Garcia, for each individual campus.
Yeah, I saw the backup. Okay, alrighty then.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
We move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Colunga. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Back.
Item 17, recommend approval to retain the law firm of Denton, Navarro, Rocha, and Bernal, P.C. as per the terms and conditions on the attached contract to conduct an investigation of Ardendone's special services and to make recommendations to the interim superintendent.
Ms. Garcia.
Yes. It shows here that he's going to be doing some work. My question is he going to continue to do more work? I mean, I think he had like about 100 boxes the day that he did the other case. Is he going to continue, or is he going to use already the information that he has?
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll let you know that the Willett and Gareth firm that was hired by this board months ago had come to us to let us know that they had an overload of other legal services. When that occurred, they decided that they weren't going to charge us for the time that they were using for those services during what we had hired them for. So the answer to your question is yes, that the majority of the information is already there.
In other words, we already have information compiled into this matter.
Yes.
Okay. What is it that we're looking for? What is it that, first of all, I just don't understand how administration can make decisions. And why do we have to go to legal all the time? I think that if administrators get paid, administrators need to be led to do the decisions. It's called management. It's called decision making. And for us to continue to use attorneys for any issue that comes across us, I think it's pretty sickening, because taxpayers are getting pretty sick and tired of spending money left and right on attorneys. I mean, I hear it every day. And first of all, what is it that we're looking for? Right here, what is this investigation consist of? Is it accounting? Is it, because if it's accounting, I have the solution for you. You can send it to the department where Ms. Carolyn Keaton Rylander. They can come and do and dissect the whole department if it's special ed. Why do we have to spend on legal? Is it because we have legal issues with this one case? I want to know it, because there's no millions and millions of dollars missing like we originally started. It's not. Remember a box that I don't know if you received it or where it was received. There was a box that was sent to me from TEA, and it was delivered by Mr. Abel. And I left that binder up at TEA to review. And I have the response. And there's nothing there.
Mrs. Springton.
Read the letter from TEA, because obviously it's bothering me that we're hiring this attorney again to do what? Can you explain to me if it's invoicing?
Mr. Saldaya, I think it's leading to personnel issue.
Yes, sir. If that is where this may be heading to, then I would recommend that the board consider this an executive session.
¿Verdad?
That's even better, sir.
Do I have a motion, though?
Thank you, Mr. Saldaña.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah.
Well, give me a
To
second.
accept
Okay, yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we move this to closed session.
All right, be moved for a closed session item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Being second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Ms. Perez?
Why not?
No, that's
Go back to it.
38.
Is it closed session?
We're
Or
gonna
is
come
he
back.
going to move it down? Or
You want to do it now, or we come back to it?
Up to the board.
I like to put
Go back there?
when we go back there.
Yeah,
Whenever we go back there.
Take care of business.
Yes.
All right, good. 38.
Item 38, recommend approval of change order number 13 to amend the owner-contractor agreement with American Contracting USA, Inc., Combs, Texas, for the re-roofing project at Hannah High School, Falk, and Stell Middle Schools, and El Jardín Elementary School.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes, I had a question, because on that one, we had a problem with the roofing from from Hannah High School, and I believe this was the same company that was doing those. Did we solve this issue there after all? There was moisture or leaks underneath I believe it was some sort of a plastic or something that was being utilized. Did we ever resolve that matter? Because I know that we had a problem there, and that was my question.
Isn't the issue about the change order?
This is, which one is it?
This is a change order.
This is number 38.
Yeah, 38.
I'm sorry. Yes, that one, for the American Contracting, yes. Because I believe they were using, that's what I'm talking about, the re-roofing at Hannah. That's what it is.
I know, but this change order is about time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But my question
that's a
is,
subject.
okay, it's about time, but within that time, did they repair what was going to be done then?
I think,
Because I think they continue to come with change orders often. So my question is,
for additional days, right?
rainy day.
I think what happened,
Rainy days.
it's a raining days. I think that's what they're doing, asking extra time due to the
To extend.
weather.
To extend.
Yes, that's what this is saying.
But to answer your question on that one section, yes, it was fixed.
Okay. Okay. That's okay.
Move to approve.
They move to
Second.
approve. In second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. 40.
Item 40, recommend awarding bid number 10-045, reconditioning of helmet and shoulder pad repairs district-wide to several vendors. Annual bid.
Garcia.
On that one, for the reconditioning of the helmets, my only question, Mr. Springston, is the reconditioning, are they automatically reconditioned by, let's say, we buy from Rydell or whoever the name brand is, or do we have to send them to another vendor? Wouldn't the vendor that we buy them from, wouldn't they be the ones to recondition automatically? Or do we have to, I mean, I know that they must have some accountability if anything was to happen to any of our students, because my question is, if we purchase these helmets from Rydell and then we get them to another vendor to recondition, is that going to waive the warranty or for us to be held accountable? Wouldn't it be safe if we just send them back to recondition to the company that makes them or that we bought them from? How I want to know how this would work for us, and the liability that we would have. You know, because Rydell, let's say they do the helmet, and wouldn't they recondition the helmet itself, or do we have to send it to a different vendor? And then let's say we're caught in a litigation matter, but the recondition was made by somebody else.
I don't know the exact name of the seal, but there is a seal that each company has to put on the helmet and or shoulder pads that shows it is safe to play or safe to use. Once that seal of approval is there, then yes, we can use them. And I can't remember the acronym of or what is the number. NICE. Once those seals are there, then yes, they are safe to use. If they do not allow the seal, then that material or that helmet is not used. It is over.
Yeah, as per OSHA standards, you have to recondition these helmets. I know that for a fact. My question is, if we buy helmets from Rydell, are they sent back to Rydell for reconditioning, or do we send them to other vendors? Because I would say if I'm a Rydell company owner,
Coach Rodriguez.
huh?
He is the man in charge.
He used to be in charge of athletic.
But
You know?
he needs to, the superintendent needs to call.
You know?
Not us.
Mr.
That's why we have Rydell as one of the vendors. There's several vendors here, and Coach, you can answer this just as better as I can, because we've dealt with this in the past, in the last couple of years, and in the reconditioning, and we do send a lot of these things back to Rydell. But answer those questions.
Like anything else, Mr. Springston, members of the board, Mr. President, these are bid items, and there's very few players in this game of reconditioning. There's really two major players, and they are both qualified, and they both do an excellent job. And we don't use a helmet in the system that doesn't have the NOxy seal after it being approved, and both companies are allowed to recondition either helmet that we use, whether it be the Schutt helmet or the Rydell helmet or the very few Adams helmets that we have in the district. But if we have 10,000 helmets in the district, you know, there's a proportionate amount, and we go by the bid and what's the best thing for the district. In some cases, if a company repairs 10 helmets at such a price, and they award you a brand new helmet for repairing 10 of those as a deal, and that's taken into consideration. So we allow both companies to do our work.
Mr. Aguilar? Coach Rod, she brings up a good point, and on the legal point of view, if you have a Rydell helmet and the warranties that come with that helmet, and then you have to recondition it, and somebody else reconditions, not the company that put it out, do we lose any type of warranty that comes? Let's say I have a player that it cracked, it wasn't supposed to, have a severe injury, and we go to litigation. Is that an out for them to say, well, we didn't recondition it, so our warranty doesn't hold? Are we protected under that other seal, no matter who repairs it, as long as it comes with that seal, the original warranty of the maker is still intact?
Absolutely. In other words, modern helmet repair can, if they're allowed to repair and have the seal approval, because they go through testing on the seals, and you're not allowed to put the seal on a helmet or a shoulder pad that is not tested. And we're protected either way. The companies have liability insurance for doing that, and like I said, there's only two major players in the state that do that work. But you are protected. If Riddell helmets go to All-American Helmet Repair and Conditioning, whatever, you're protected. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. That's my concern.
Anyone else? Do I have a
Move
motion?
to approve.
The motion to approve, been seconded by Peña. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Okay.
Item 41, recommend awarding bid number 10-046, music supplies and materials district-wide to several vendors. Annual bid.
Ms. Garcia.
Would that be for the stands and just materials that they use for the band? It's not instruments, is it?
You can come up and let me know.
Is it?
I'm looking here at the different enterprises here that we're doing things to and the different numbers. You can answer
Thank
that
you.
question.
Good evening, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston, members of the board. Ms. Garcia, these are for supplies and materials. In other words, the reeds that go into the oboes and the music stands and everything else. This is not our instrument bid.
Okay. Motion to approve.
I've got a question. Okay.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification from me. There's a list, and it's a long one.
Yes, ma'am.
And am I to understand they can go to any of them on the list, or do you have to go in order from the top bottom?
Only the ones that have been recommended, ma'am.
Right, the ones that have been recognized, but there's more than one, right?
Only by line item, there's only one.
Right, but you have to... I understand that. Let me try this again.
It's the silent behaviors of that.
Okay. Let me know when I can... Anyway, the Pepper, J.W. Pepper, McCormick, Melhart, all the way down. My question is, because I've been asked this question by the administrators, people in the public, and I'm not too clear on it because I heard you say something different the other day. You have to go on the list of vendors in the order that they're in, or can you just pick from that vendor and see which one gives you the better price?
Ms. Peña, if you go to J.W. Pepper and Son, on the right-hand column, it says item awarded. They're only able to provide item number 31.
Okay.
If you go to Washington Music Center, they're allowed to provide us, or we can buy all these items from Washington.
Okay, and McCormick, Pepper, then Rhythm, and I can't pronounce, what is it, Perry-Pole?
Perry-Pole, yes.
They're all awarded 31.
Only.
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 I only want 31.
Yes, and 31.
I can pick out of those four, or do I have to get to the top of the list and go with Pepper first? And if that, they don't have it, or...
The item 31, ma'am, is a percentage discount off your catalog. In other words, any items that are not listed within the bid, we can go to the catalog. And what we do in our department, we know that all these vendors have been awarded. We go to the best value.
That's the only answer I was looking for.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Move to approve.
Second.
We move to approve, second by Ms. Peña. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay.
Item 43.
Cast lots.
Recommend awarding bid number 10-048, printed music district-wide to several vendors and cast lots for items number 1, 3, 4, 6, 13, and 24 of said bid. Annual bid.
We got cash lots, item number 1, vendors Southern Music Company and RBC Music Company. Thank you.
Now the winner. Okay. says RBC Music Company Incorporated?
RBC Music Company. Item number 3, printed music district-wide, Southern Music and RBC.
They're hard.
Y'all kind of got them small.
It says here Southern Music Company.
Southern Music Company, y'all have that?
Is that on the Southern Podium?
Item number 4, music district-wide, same 2 companies. I know, I'd rather just use my hands.
Overnight with the
Throw the
president.
whole envelope.
He doesn't know how to use a little.
Southern Music Company.
Southern Music Company.
Ruben, let's go.
Item number 6,
I repeated it.
8 o'clock. Make it by 10.
that's easier.
Oh, it's Southern Music Company.
Have that recorded? Okay.
Pat, got it?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Item number 13,
Is that the one? Yes. Okay. RBC Music Company Incorporated.
RBC Music. And item number 24.
Item are we on right now?
43. 43. The other one is 46, I believe. Southern Music Company.
Southern Music.
That's it.
Is that it?
That's it.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Be moved to approve. Do I have a second? Second, Dr. Scoville. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Pat.
Item 45, recommend awarding bid number 10-059, charter bus district-wide to several vendors. Annual bid.
I have a question on this one. Roughly how much would you say, Mr. Springston, or whoever has this answer, do we spend on charter buses?
Oh.
On a yearly basis, on a year to year?
I do not know that exact number. Can you help me there, Ms. Pena?
$112. But that's what it's been for the past, more or less, give or take.
12 months.
Well, how many activities going on and so forth? So through the past, let's say 4 or 5 years, would you say that we've spent almost $500,000 on just charter buses? Would that be fair?
Ms. Garcia, don't really want to answer that question because I'm not privy to the exact amount. I can get that for you in a Friday letter and address it to Mr. Springston.
Could you please? Because I know that maybe what we could do is, yes, buy our own 2-3 buses eventually and build up a small fleet, instead of us having to pay on a yearly basis, and our students would be able to have access to that, I think it would probably be less expensive for us to go that route. And could you get me that information?
Yes, ma'am.
just
I'll
on
get
a
it to you
weekly
for
level?
through a Friday
That's
letter.
the only question I
And
have.
I think it's a very good thing that we can look into. In fact, we were at the football game, and Mr. Saez was wondering, look at those trucks, remember?
Mm-hmm.
He said, what are we doing with trucks? U-Hauls. Of course, I had to tell him that those were the
For the band
and
instruments. Yes, sir.
So one of the fans said, well, that's nothing. They said, I think Riondo, that's an 18-wheeler for the band.
Yes.
But they want to have one in high school.
That is correct. That is a difference. We're going to have 6.
And this is to Ms. Peña.
Yes, ma'am.
These companies that are listed here on this vendors list, I'm just wondering, and I'd like to get information, their track record, their safety record. Remember I'm trying to remember the company that.
Global, ma'am. Global.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. The one with the elderly people leaving Houston.
Yes, because see, when my children were in chess and we rode those buses, and we were told at that particular time that we had to go with that company because the other company that was on was Valley Transit and they were sold out. We couldn't touch anybody else. And I've been on those buses where we had to stop to put the fan belt back on the bus because it would fall during our stops.
Yes.
And when we got to the hotel, I mean, there was a cloud of smoke. And we come out, waving because the bus died there. From there, the wrecker had to come pick it up. And on the other bus, the fan belt was hitting the ground, and the guy had to stop and open the back and hook it back on so we could continue our trip. And I'm like, it was embarrassing for the kids because you all are from Brownsville. Where'd you get that bus? The bus cemetery? Yes. And when I went to this particular company, my son left his glasses, and we went to go get them. And I thought I was in a bus graveyard. And they said, no, this is a bus depot. So I wanted to make sure that we go and do our background. And I'd like for our board members or for us to know this is really crucial for me because our children get on that bus to travel, whatever they pick. I like to have information of their background, their maintenance record, their breakdown record. I really would like to have that on file with us, with these companies, because these are our children's lives that we're putting on. And if we're going to hold them to a particular group of buses, we're going to hold them to buses who have high standards, top-of-the-line vehicles, and not putting us in mediocre. I hope we can get there without breaking down 5 or 6 times.
Yes, ma'am, we will. And again, we'll address it with the Friday letter. How many years do you want and as far as their maintenance record?
The last 5 years. And their accident record? Please, that's really important because we went on another beautiful trip, and the bus drivers were a little bit strange, and they kept running into the light poles, and they dented a few of the buses, and the kids were just having a blast, laughing. But, they were doing damage, and I'm like, what is going on with these drivers? So for my satisfaction as a school board member, I'd like to have their accident records, the track records on maintenance, breakdown, and how old their fleet is. Very important before we put these children on the bus.
Yes, ma'am, we will do.
that?
Yes, we can do that.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I move to approve.
Second.
Cortez wanted to
Oh, sorry.
had a question, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. I think for a couple of years now we've been talking about how administration should look into purchasing its own fleet of buses. With the amount of money expended, along with Ms. Garcia's question, it's pretty consistent every year, in and around the 100,000 plus range. Everywhere we go to some of these events in the exhibition halls, they showcase these buses, and they're not that far off of a regular school bus price. They come with, some of them have built-in restroom in the back.
Majority.
The majority of them do.
Yeah.
It comes with a higher comfort level. We know that not everybody is using them, especially these days with our extra precautions that we take with these swine flus and things like that. We know that for certain, if we owned our own buses, they're going to be sanitized appropriately for our kids. We know that the maintenance logs are going to be under our care, custody, and control. We won't have problems with those type of issues if we went out and and we're able to begin to purchase, in phases our own fleets so that we can use them for any activities. I mean, how many times do different organizations require a bus? We've got the tracking mechanism right now that we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for, but does it allow us to track those buses on a private bus? I would venture to guess that it didn't. So if something happened and that bus broke down, we would have no way of finding that out, or you and your administration wouldn't have any way of finding that out until after they've fixed the problem. Whereas if
When I get the phone call that it's broken down for me to get a bus.
If it's our bus, it's going to have our GPS system. Our district's transportation department will know the exact whereabouts of that bus. If it was idling too long or whatever the case may be. And it just provides a more secure mechanism for the students in this district. Some of smaller districts up the valley have their own buses, and they're half or less than our size. With the amount of money that we expend every year on these services, it almost seems better if we put this amount of money in some sort of a payment so that we can finance a certain number of buses. I would probably recommend that you look at that. I'm not sure that I'd be ready to approve this again for a third year after having, made this recommendation in the past, that the administration look at this. I'm not sure that I'd be ready to support this yet again for a third year tonight.
No, but it would be something, again, let's do it because it's been brought, you're right, it's been brought in the past. Because it's not just buying a charter bus. We need to look into maintenance costs. We're talking about all those things, insurance and all these things. That is it feasible? Is cost effective? See, however, I have no problem with the administration looking into it and for maybe for the spring. I mean, on the budget coming along pretty soon, and we can budget one or two, whatever it takes. But first, I think the administration needs to do in-depth study as to how much it will cost us versus the actual 5,000. Can we get this 5,000?
500,000.
500,000 in 5 years. You see, yeah, 600. So I think it's a good recommendation, Mr. Cortez. Ms. Peña.
And I agree with you, Mr. Cortez. We need to look at a fleet and maybe like some of the monies. Remember when they send in that stimulus funds, we buy something that we can buy and we own and done with it. You maintain it, you can keep it running for 10 years. If you maintain it, you can keep it going. Because these buses are pretty, they don't change very much. But for tonight, I strongly feel you need to approve this because if you do not, you are cutting the kids out of transportation and they can't go anywhere if they need to. So for tonight,
motion to approve.
Motion and by Mr. Dr.
Second by Peña.
Escobedo.
I second it.
Second by Peña. We have a second by Ms. Peña.
Garcia.
Second.
Okay, I think it was you, Dr. Escobedo, right?
Dr. Escobedo and Ms.
I
Peña.
second.
I move to approve.
And
I said second.
And I think it's a unanimous vote, I
Okay,
believe.
so those in favor say aye.
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 We just want to make the record straight. I know it was.
Record is clear.
Mr. Springston, please look at that, though.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We've brought this.
I remember hearing.
Brought this up in the past, and
I remember while we were visiting a couple of conventions, I saw a couple of buses that very similar and have bathrooms. And I even got cards I can call.
Item 46, recommend awarding bid number 10-060, medical supplies and equipment district-wide to several vendors and cast lots for items 5, 93, 116, and 130 of said bid. Annual bid.
Cast lots for medical supplies and equipment district-wide, item number 5.
This one, right?
Yes, sir.
A, athletic and medical supply.
Item number 93.
fell, guys.
No, that was just a piece of paper.
No, sir.
I ripped it off.
I saw something fall.
Pick it and show it to Mr. Science. Hey, athletic medical supply.
A Athletic Medical Supply.
No estoy ciego, but I saw it.
Item number 116.
It's been tonight.
Sir.
What item is this?
116.
United Health Supplies. United Health Supplies. 16, okay. And the last one?
Item number 130.
130.
So I bring my jacket.
Cold in here.
Ay, ay, ay. More medical?
More medical. Dozen?
Is that it?
That's it.
Do I have entertain a motion? I've been moved, been second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Okay, now let's go to
Closed meeting.
closed meeting.
Item 12, closed meeting as pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551071, 551072, 551074, 551082, and 551084. 8:15.
Ahora, dale para atrás. Yo me tengo.
Not bad, Joe. How are you been?
They would visit out of the ordinary. Did he get 8,000? To me, this is
Back to our regular meeting, number 17.
Item 17, recommend approval to retain the law firm of Denton, Navarro, Rocha, and Bernal, P.C. as per the terms and conditions on the attached contract to conduct an investigation of Art Rendon Special Services and to make recommendations to the interim superintendent.
Move to approve.
Moved, it's been a move, do I have a second?
Second.
Being second, Mr. Colunga, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay. And I do want to say, just for the record, Mr. President, if I may, the reason that I vote against this is because I really don't feel that we need to retain this law firm. I feel that between our internal and external auditors and police and superintendent's office, that there should be a recommendation on this item. And I would like Ms. Pat, Mr. Springston, if I could have the minutes of when we hired Willette and Guerra. I want to see how the item was written and what the discussion was and how the votes were. But that's my reasoning for voting against item 17.
Mr. President,
Yes.
the same thing, I concur with Dr. Escobedo. I feel that when the investigation was done for Mr. Gonzalez, a lot of information was brought out by Special Services. That department was also investigated, and we should already have all the information that we need. We just need our administrators and the superintendent to look through the information, decipher it, and see if what is there that we need to act on. I don't think we need to pay the same person more money for the same thing he's already done and we've already gotten our possession.
Thank you,
That's why I
ma'am.
vote nay.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, item 66.
Recommend approval for compensation to classified staff, AM 21.5 hours and AT 15.5 hours for work performed during June 2009 for a total of $427.26.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion is second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item 67.
Discussion and consideration on the possible selection of a finalist for the position of superintendent. Board member request.
I make a motion to select
I'm sorry.
Mr. Brett Springston as a finalist for the position of superintendent and give public notice of the finalist pursuant to section 552.126 of the Texas Government Code.
I'll second.
Second.
It's been second. Motion to approve and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. So now that's it, huh? No, item
68.
68. Pat, 68.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action, due process hearing, SG BNF Annabelle G. versus Brownsville ISD, docket number 007-SE0909.
And 68A.
That was 68A, sir.
I move to approve as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Move and second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Announcements? Mr. Spring?
Mr. Aguilar, before he doesn't, did we approve to move the meeting?
Yes.
Was that doesn't consent agenda, right? Okay.
That was consent.
Making sure.
As far as
Congratulations first.
Thank you, sir. As far as announcements are concerned, just to let the public know that we did win a $75,000 award through CSSR and I forgot the Broad Academy, and through the Meadows Foundation for board training workshops that we get to conduct over the next year. Tomorrow I will be sending out an email to you about wanting to have the first session before we leave for Christmas holidays. We can do that two ways, and it will spell it out how we can do this in several ways. The first way is we can do it by half days. We can do it 12 o'clock till 4:30, 1 o'clock till 5:30, and we can come back and go on a Saturday morning. We can do it all on one day on a Saturday, or we can do it all on one day on a Friday. We could break it up into 3 days when they do to a day and a half. It all depends upon you. And it's different varieties, and so I will send out the information to you so you can give me the days that you feel like would be best, and I can pick out some times and get it solidified, and then let the gentleman who is coming from San Antonio and from Houston do this first training, and he's given me 4 dates in December, and I'll give you those dates so that we can look at a time that we can start our training and get this foundation. And by the way, this is the first for the South Texas in the state of Texas to win this Meadows Foundation grant. And these people who do these types of trainings are considered some of the best and the top-notch trainers in the world. And so I think some of y'all have already been and have enjoyed their trainings, and so I'm looking forward to the type of workshops that they're going to provide us, and we're going to get after it. Okay. Other than that, have a happy Thanksgiving here next week.
Next board meeting is
December the 8th.
December the 8th, okay. Also, don't forget to, Mike,
Yes, sir.
Mike, get the, a letter from the attorneys, Guerra,
Yes, sir.
that the board member
sir.
requested.
Take care of that.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, Christopher, Michael, and Lupe.